What's up you guys, Sasha here. There is so much talk out there about making money. What's the best way of making it? Should you be doing passive income? Should you be doing active income? Should you be in a job? Should you be in a high paying job because it earns you more money even though you have to put more effort in? Should you not do that? Should you go for a job where you don't have to quite spend as much effort and get paid less? A lot of people have lots of opinions about this, but the most important thing is often missed. You see all these threads on Reddit, you see videos on YouTube, you see people discussing it everywhere, and the one thing that people often forget about is the most critical factor, and that is time. First, let's cover the most basic principle, and that is there are two different ways of earning money. The first is exchanging some form of effort, in most cases that's your time, in order to get money in return for that effort. And the second method is to earn money on the money that you already have. Now that whole second thing, talking about investments and the best way of making more money on money over time, is a whole separate topic. We'll cover that in another video or another million of videos somewhere down the line. In this video, let's talk about the former. Let's talk about exchanging your time and effort for money, whether you're in a job, whether you're doing some form of passive income. All of these things ultimately require some form of an upfront amount of effort that then returns you some form of value. Let's talk about how you should be thinking about it to make the right decisions for your career, for your jobs, for the kind of things that you do with your life, from a slightly different perspective to maybe how you used to think about it before. The first thing to think about before you start a job, before you take on some work, before you begin doing something that you think will return you money in the future, is to just consider, what is the value of my time going to be, and is there a better way to spend that time? You really need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan and you're just taking any kind of job that returns you some form of a minimum wage or any other wage for that matter, it doesn't really matter exactly how much you earn, but you don't have any prospect of where that's going to grow, where that's going to take you, what that's going to teach you, how that rate might increase in the future and why. If you don't ever think about that progression path and what you're going to learn and how that will put you in a better position to be able to make more of your time in the future, you will never be able to raise that bar. And ultimately, there is one thing that is a constraint for every single human on this planet. Pretty much every other constraint can be overcome, it can be changed, it can be ignored. It's not a genuine constraint in the sense that there's nothing you can do about it except for time. And so that is the one thing you need to make sure you value absolutely the most, irrespective of anything else. In many cases, you might go and choose a low-paid job or a job that might be a bit more onerous, it might take more of your time, it might be a bit more difficult to do in some ways, but if that job teaches you critical skills, puts you in a position where you build the right connections, puts you in a position where you build the right knowledge about whatever it is that you want to be doing long term, those critical skills, knowledge, information, connections, all of those things can then lead you down a path where you might be earning considerably more down the line. And in that case, that might be the right thing to do. So in all cases, make sure you have a plan and make sure you're thinking ahead and thinking, what am I doing in this particular job other than the money that it pays me that will allow me to earn more money for a different job at some point in the future? Here is a really important point. Not all jobs are the same, and by that I don't just mean that you might be doing different kinds of things. Some might be physical work, some might be manual things, some might be sitting in the computer all day typing, whatever it is. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that the time and effort that you put into these different jobs can be paid very differently depending on what you do. I know a lot of people who I've studied with, who I went to university with, who then went on to jobs in investment banking, who went to jobs in very premium consulting companies, and those were the sort of jobs that a lot of students would dream of. They might pay a huge amount of money when you first start. Maybe you'll be earning £40,000. In some cases, you might be earning as much as £50,000 or £60,000 right off the bat, right from when you're graduating, or maybe in the first year or two after graduating. And that seems like a huge amount of money when you're young. That seems to be absolutely the right way to go. But is it? In many of these cases, the people will work something like 11 hours a day. You might be turning up to work at 8, you might be leaving work after 7, and you don't really have the perks of having a lunch hour or having some kind of like big breaks. You're going to be working flat out for that period. You're definitely going to be having to work most weekends, if not all weekends, and that is about 80 hours a week. In fact, I know people who do more than that. I know people who turn up to work at 8 and they leave something like 11 or midnight. They will eat at their desk, dinner gets ordered in, they get to sit and eat it in front of their laptop or in the meeting room while they're doing their very important work, and that probably equates to something like 90 to 100 hours every single week. Even if you're earning that £60,000 salary, that equates to £12.76 an hour. Just think about it like this. If you earned a £25,000 salary for a regular 9-to-5 job, which didn't come with any of the stress or any of the other downsides, you'd be earning £13.67 an hour, which is more. And I already hear some big arguments. The first of them is probably something like, but the total is higher. I am earning double what the other person's earning. I'm earning so much more money in total. This is an amazing career. Well, you might think so, but the truth is people value time differently. And there are two ways of thinking about it. Some people might say, well, I have a fixed amount of time, and for some of it, I'm going to exchange it for money, and I'm going to exchange it at a better rate than the rate I might be getting if I'm working every single hour for an employer that pays me a fixed salary. And you might go and say, hey, I'm going to go and spend some time with friends. I'm going to spend more time with family. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. I'm going to invest more time in myself. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to be able to do all these other things. And you're basically saying that the value of your time is not just money. You are able to spend it doing other things for yourself. And that has a lot of value in itself. Even if you do want to earn more, there are a lot of other ways that you can earn. If you're only working a 9-to-5, you have a huge amount of time before you go to work. You have an even bigger of time when you come back from work. You have the entire evening, you have all weekend to do any kind of side hustle, to start up a side project, do some form of passive income, whatever it is that you like. And you might find that you actually earn more in total through doing this than doing this very high paid job. Now let's come to the second argument about these super high powered jobs that earn you a lot of money: progression. Progression and prospects of moving up the ladder is ultimately the end goal of pretty much everybody who goes into one of these roles. They say, well, right now I'm doing this, I'm putting all this time and I'm earning a great amount of money, but per hour it's not actually that much. But when I get to the next level, when I get to the level after that, that's when I'm really gonna start earning. Now, I'm not even going to go into the argument of, do you want to waste the 20 years of your life when you're young, when you're building your family, when you're spending time with friends, when you're forming all your early life connections, sitting in your office and not doing anything else? That's beside the point. I mean, like, for some people that is a massive issue. For some people it may not be, but it really should be. But aside from that way of thinking, let's talk about just purely on the money basis. Let's say you do continue doing that. Let's say you just sit in your office, you continue working, and you fight for that promotion. The first thing to think about is how many people in those kind of companies are there in those senior roles compared to the analysts that come in. A lot of it isn't down to the fact that they're better and you might be the best in your class or whatever. A lot of it is down to the fact that a lot of people just don't last. You might think that you will, but then when you're doing it for a month, when you're doing it for a year, when you're doing it for 3 to 5 years, when you're doing it for 15 years, you might begin having different priorities. You might get kids, you might realize that actually you want to see them sometimes. You might want to spend some time with your parents other than at Christmas. I don't know, there might be other things that you might want to do in life, and a lot of people just never ever get there. But even if you do, let's say you get to a senior role, you might earn £150,000 and you're still probably doing your 90 hours or 100 hours, because not only are you doing all the different projects, you're also having to manage those other people below you and having to invest a lot of time in teaching them and making sure that they're doing the right stuff. Let's say go out, let's say you hit the peak of this kind of career and you land a partner job in a pretty respectable consulting firm or something else, and you're gonna earn £500,000 a year. You're most likely going to be working every hour that exists, something like 90 to 100 hours. If you convert £500,000 into a per hour salary, you're still earning under £100 an hour. Now, £100 an hour is a colossally amazing salary, no doubt about that. For a lot of people, that is something they can only dream of. But we're talking about the 0.0% of the people who start out who will end there. And the ultimate cap, the absolute maximum that you're ever going to earn doing this kind of thing is about £95 an hour. So is that really the dream for giving away your entire life, all your time, and nothing else? That is the maximum you will ever be able to earn. The last point about talking different jobs not being the same is if you're considering different jobs where the starting point is relatively similar, let's say they both have the same sort of hour structures and the same level of effort required from you and they pay about the same, you really need to think about what do they give you that is not money? What do they give you in terms of the learnings? What do they give you in terms of the skills and the technology that you learn and all these other things? Because those are ultimately going to be the things that will determine how much you earn in the future. Your current salary determines nothing. Your current salary will not be in any way important in 5 years' time when you're applying for the next job or when you're going into some slightly different industry. The skills, knowledge, and experience are everything that matters. Now let's talk about side hustles. When people talk about side hustles, they're often completely ignorant of the per hour way of thinking. People just think about absolute numbers. They think I can make £1 for doing this, I can make £10 for doing that. And actually that is a really bad way of thinking about it, because you immediately lose track of what you're exchanging for what. You are still exchanging time and value for money. Even if you're doing a passive income project, you're gonna have to spend an amount of time creating that passive income and then some other amount of time maintaining it over time, improving it over time, honing and working on it over a period of time. And that total time spent on that project is ultimately what's gonna earn you an income. So it's still really valuable to think about the amount of time you're spending and what you're getting back for it, to try to compare different things. A really popular example of a side hustle that a lot of people do is surveys. You sign up to lots of services, they send you emails, or you go and log in and you find surveys that you can fill out. Some of them might be really quick, they might be 15 minutes, others might be half an hour. And at the end of that survey, you might earn 50p. In some cases, when they're really generous, you might earn £1. If you spend that time doing the bare minimum, low paid job for the minimum wage, whatever it is, putting produce on supermarket shelves, working in a fast food restaurant, whatever it is that you want to do, you would earn considerably more. Now, there is an argument saying that things like surveys and other things can be done passively. Some people actually enjoy it. Some people enjoy sitting in front of the TV and doing it in the evening. In that case, hey, all power to you. It's not a bad way to make a few extra pounds and pay for that beer on a Friday night. But if you're considering that as an income source, you should probably be thinking about other options instead. The big winners when you're thinking about things on a per hour income basis are long-term passive income streams. Let's take one example. Let's talk about a blog. I'll give you a really quick and basic example of how much you can earn from a blog, and I'm going to use extremely conservative assumptions, and I'll tell you at each point why they're conservative and what the sort of real world equivalent might be, just so we're not overly optimistic and we're giving a very reasonable expectation of what you might earn. Now, I'm not saying everybody can earn a good income through a blog, because you have to have a huge amount of patience. You have to put in a lot of time and effort. You have to learn a lot of skills, and ultimately you need to be really good at doing the actual writing, and a lot of people just don't last. A lot of people just find that it is not for them. So before I get into the details, I'm just going to put that out there. But let's say you go and do a blog and you write a regular post, and the regular post will probably on average take you, I don't know, let's say 3 hours. In some cases it might be much quicker than that, but let's assume it takes you 3 hours, including all the editing and adding some photos and whatever else you want to do with your blog post. Now let's say after 6 to 8 months it ranks on Google and it brings you 500 people a month. Now that's a very conservative estimate. I would say that most people should be hitting about 1 to 1.2 thousand people a month. A lot of the stuff that I'm producing now that I know a lot more about it, that I have better skills, I know more about how to write blog posts better, I probably am aiming more for 2,000 or more per month, but let's call it 500 just to be on the safe side of things. With most content, you're probably looking at a window of about 4 to 5 years where you're going to be sitting towards the top of Google. It might be considerably longer, especially if you're good at maintenance, improving your website over time, refreshing your content. But let's be conservative. Let's just assume it's there for 4 years. So that's 48 months worth of revenue, and then it goes away. It never earns you another penny. That's not quite how it works, but let's just assume that for the calculation. If you have some kind of reasonable monetization set up, so let's say you just run ads on your website. You have one of the premium ad agencies because you've been writing a lot of blog posts, and let's say you have some other very minor side things, like you recommend some products with some retailers or Amazon or whatever it is, and let's say that you earn £20 per 1,000 visitors. That's probably on the lowish side. I earn considerably more through the blogs that I run, but regardless of your niche, that's definitely something that is achievable pretty much by every single blog out there. So that means that you're earning about £10 a month from the point when your blog post ranks, and you're doing that for 48 months in a row, so that's about £480 that blog post is going to earn you. Now, assuming we use the 3 hours that we just calculated for the time taken to create it, edit it, do a basic bit of maintenance on it, that's about £160 an hour that post can bring you. just from writing that one blog post. I mean, of course, there's a lot more work that is required, and you won't earn it if you just write the one blog post. You have to write many of them in order for them together to grow your website. But on average, that is what you should be expecting. Just think about it like this, that is 50% more than that partner is earning for working every single hour that exists in the day, having no life, not seeing their family, not seeing their kids, not doing anything else. If you begin thinking about it like this, suddenly you begin thinking about earning money in a very different way. The same kind of thinking can be applied to lots of other passive revenue streams that you build over time, whether you're into podcasting, doing YouTube, creating music, video, photo content, and then distributing it through platforms that pay you royalties every time somebody uses it. There is a lot of different options out there. I'm going to link a separate video below where I talk about a lot of these different income streams. If you're interested, you can go and watch that after this video. I hope you guys found this useful. Tell me what you think about this concept and this way of thinking about earning money. A lot of people just really get blindsided by the premium jobs, the premium company names on their LinkedIn profile, the way other people perceive their jobs, and the way that your uncles and aunties and other people that you don't really care about perceive what it is that you do. Tell me what you really think. I'll answer all the comments where there's questions. If you guys liked this video, please give this video a like. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. It helps this video get shown to more people. It helps our channel grow. We're still very new, not quite been going for 3 months yet, so I really appreciate it. Every single like makes a massive difference. If you're interested in this type of video or videos about personal finance, about consumer finance products, things like credit cards, bank accounts, challenger banks, how to make more money, how to keep more of the money that you make, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be releasing a lot of videos in July and August with reviews of some of the really popular banking products and credit cards and current accounts and all of that kind of stuff. So all of that to look forward to. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notifications every time one of my videos comes out. I'll see you guys later.